The lion came bounding over. He sniffed the rock 100 times. He walked around it and went away, confused, perplexed, puzzled, bewildered. Did you hear those words?
Perplexed, confused, puzzled, bewildered. Not words that any 5-year-old is going to even connect that, like, can't even pronounce it. Let's not even get into the phonics piece. Yeah.
Like in my house, talking while I make dinner, I'm probably not going to use the terms perplexed, puzzled, bewildered on an everyday basis. So this is why these read-alouds are delicious. I saw that little donkey as clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy, he muttered. Like the word muttered. So now, did you picture what that looks like in your head? To my child, I would say, or you could say to your child, and then you show the picture and you talk about it. So what did it mean that he muttered? Like, I'm going to mutter to myself if you don't wash your hands before dinner.
Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Literacy Launchpad Read, Learn, Grow. Today's episode, I'm beyond excited for because I've had such an amazing conversation talking with our guest today about so many different topics around literacy that I think is going to help you feel so transformative in enjoying this topic. But also, be sure to grab a pen and a paper because we have so many golden nuggets to share with you. I want to make sure I invite our guests to introduce themselves, but without further ado, she's got her pen, so I love it. Maria, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jose. I'm honored to be here, and everyone should know we've already chatted for about an hour before we even started this, so we're all relaxed.
There's so much magic that happens before we hit the record button.
Yeah.
I always tell my guests, like, 30 minutes usually, just to get to know each other if we haven't met before, and just to make sure you're feeling comfortable about our topic. And our hour has literally taken us to so many different places, but we're here to talk about you and to talk about this topic around the science of reading. So before we kick us off, why don't you just introduce yourself, let people know who you are and what you do?
Hi, everyone. My name's Dr. Maria Murray, and I am the president and CEO, founder of the Reading League. And that is a not-for-profit organization that advances the science of reading, which you'll figure out what that is in a few minutes. But we work to advance the awareness, understanding, and use of reading and writing instruction that has been proven by scientists and researchers to close gaps for students and adults. So I am a very lucky person that I get to do the work I do. We have a lot of impact, and I'm really excited to speak to our Syracuse community because I'm Syracuse born. I've been here in this beautiful city 61 years.
I love that.
Yeah.
And something we were just talking about before we hit the record button was that your work has had an impact in over 190 countries. That's transformative on so many levels. But tell the listeners and the viewers a little bit more about, like, what is the science of reading? Well, there's so many layers to that, right? Where do we start? Is it we want to ask the question of what is the science of reading? We want to ask the question of, like, the work that you do, because I think it all blends into one thing. It's just a matter of where do we actually start with it.
Let's try to start somewhere. But the science of reading, it's a very boring phrase. It's a catchphrase almost, but basically what those words mean is it represents this vast body of knowledge that has been done by reading scientists. How the brain reads, that psychological thing that happens in our brains to turn squiggles into words and language and messages in our brains, is the most researched aspect of what our psyches can do because of its social importance, its significance. So there's a lot to chew on. We have been able to know some pretty certain things about how to teach reading, how the brain even reads at all, how to prevent reading problems altogether. It's amazing that we've had this cure, if I can use that weird word, at our disposal for so long. But the reason I formed the Reading League is because I and my co-founders knew that this body of knowledge was not being tapped into for people for whom it was really developed. And so who did the scientists bother doing this for? And they continue to do it, by the way. It was done for the people responsible for teaching reading, the teachers, special educators, the literacy specialists, tutors, you name it. But they never even knew it existed. And because the research wasn't developed in teacher preparation programs, it was developed mostly in cognitive psych departments and neuropsych departments and so forth. So unfortunately, there was never anyone who could be a broker. So that's what we kind of are. We take those understandings from science and we deliver them in different packages, whether it's a conference or professional learning in schools, you name it, a conference, etc., a journal. And that helps us get it, finally deliver it to the people for whom it was formed. But yeah, it's like 70 years old and hundreds of thousands of articles. Yeah. Millions and millions and millions of dollars invested in it. And yeah, no one knew about it. So here we are letting people know about it. It's my joy. Yeah.
I love that. That's one of the things when we started talking, when you said, this is my joy, it struck a chord. And for all the reasons that I mentioned to you before, the moment before we had to record, I said, my other podcast is going through an identity crisis. It has to be finding its joy. So not to take us on a different tangent, but when I think about, what do you got?
Well, I just wanted to say, I first time in my life, but if anyone wants to know more about it, so we can talk less about what it is, and you can just go find out on our website, thereadingleague.org, or you could just Google the Reading League, what is the science of reading? And I just printed out the cover for today, but there's a PDF you can download on what the science of reading is.
Perfect. So I'll be sure to link it. I'll download it and link it so I can add it for the show notes. So for everyone who's listening and watching.
It's in Spanish too, Jose.
Oh, even better. I love that.
And soon French. So I'm excited. Yay.
I love that. Well, we'll make sure to include the readingleague.org in the show notes. And if anybody's listening to it, obviously you can get it and search for it on your phone or whatever device you're using. So something that I think is always important that I always like to highlight is that this podcast is intended for our parents and caregivers. So anyone who is caring for a child or a young person, adolescent, whatever the age they might be, who is responsible or spends time with them in nurturing their development. When we think about the pieces that we've formed to help people understand what reading is and literacy is, and your program and your joy project that is the literacy, the science of reading, the Reading League, what really comes to mind for you as to why this is so important, but also what can parents take away from using these resources and tools?
Yeah, thank you. I'm especially excited to be on this podcast because of who the audience is. I want every parent who's listening or watching to understand a couple of things from my heart. And you are a really important part of your child's literacy development. If there's anything that you should also know is that you, as parents, are a very powerful group of people. Parents have done so much to advance the science of reading in every single state in this country. There are groups of parents who have really had a lot of pain and trauma because their children weren't learning to read. And so that put on them the responsibility of figuring out what was going on and why. Fighting school districts, unfortunately, that's gotten a lot better. Advocating for legislation so that children can be maybe screened early on in their states instead of waiting for 3 or 4 years of school to go by to realize there's a problem. Parents who have privileged backgrounds or lifestyles can afford to hire a tutor, but they shouldn't have to. So parents are extremely powerful. We just had our annual national conference a few weeks ago in Chicago, and we always devote a session or two to a panel of parents and pediatricians. And it just gets you every time. I sit in that one every year. In this case, we had 2 parents on the panel this year, and first thing they do is show a picture of their child at the age around when they realized there was a problem. So whether there's a problem or not, though, the parents listening to this can play a joyful part in helping their little one get ready for reading, or even their intermediate, elementary, or adolescent can be leaned on to support. So I just hope people listening to that understand that they play a role. It can hopefully be a joyful role. We do have resources for parents and caregivers on our website on the Compass tab. I think you're going to link that too, Jose. We have a tab for pediatricians, and we would love it if every parent hearing this would make their pediatrician aware that it exists now, because pediatricians want to know what to do. Can I read our preamble from the defining guide?
Do it.
It's the very first inside page. It says, humankind's most precious treasure is our children, and our future depends on them. We recognize literacy as a fundamental human right that empowers individuals in a society. We also know that grim life outcomes are connected to illiteracy. We are resolved to prevent the collateral damage that is incurred by our students, especially the most vulnerable, when adults have limited access to scientific evidence. Research has identified assessment and instructional practices with which every teacher and leader should be equipped. We believe that providing educators with this knowledge is a moral imperative, and we are committed to evidence-aligned reading instruction being scaled with a sense of urgency in a comprehensive and systematic way by multiple stakeholders. And the parents are one of those stakeholders. So I invite parents to learn about what I'm talking about. I know it's hard to really grasp it in a few minutes of this podcast, but I really encourage you to join this really important work. Because even if your children are learning to read fine or had learned to read well without any seeming difficulty, right next door to you or across the street, it's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
We have, just in Onondaga County, it is said that we have 62,000 adults who are not reading at a basic level, basic or below. And Syracuse City, this beautiful place we get to live in, we have the second lowest literacy rate for a city our size in the country. So there's no surprise that we have some of the highest child poverty in our city, because low literacy, which is a human right, absolutely leads to poverty. The poverty does not cause the low literacy. We have it backwards. So I love our Syracuse. I love that this is for parents, and I really am excited to just get that message out that the parents matter. And we do everything from having sessions on how parents can best ask what questions they can bring to schools if they think there's a problem, how to communicate in a respectful and positive way with the school when you think there's a problem.
Having that partnership, which is important, because that's one of the themes that is consistent.
Yeah.
In all of the guests that have been on the podcast that have shared is you're the stakeholder, you're responsible as the parent, the caregiver for that child's future, and asking the questions and doing them however they come to you is critical to get them to listen. You don't have all the tools and resources, which is why we've created this, right? Let's get people aware of what those tools and resources are. But your voice is a tool and a resource to get what you need, to get the questions, to get the resources.
Every day. I mean, the power of parents is unbelievable. There are parent groups, there's parent websites, there's parents' Science of Reading Facebook pages. So I also have another message for parents and communities at large. It is not the responsibility of parents, caregivers, families, and communities to make sure children read. It's the schools, right?
So if it's the schools,
Mm-hmm.
Because this is, I think, in so many ways, an important message, but also a message of understanding what is the role of the parent if it is the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a disconnect in everyone has very different behaviors in how they raise their children. And what happens behind closed doors is no one's business, right? Is how some
Right.
people will think. But when we think about, I would say, this is a blanket statement, every parent wants their child to be successful as a child and as an adult.
Of course.
And we were talking about this before. When you say it's the school's responsibility, as a stakeholder, the parent plays a pivotal role in that responsibility. I think there's, and I'm saying this very cautiously, so that's why sometimes the words that I'm trying to say are not coming out all the way immediately. When have I ever screened myself? But when we think of that role, do you feel like parents know how to play that role in understanding that, like, yes, it's the school's responsibilities, but you also have a role to play at home?
Yes.
Understanding what the role is to play at home, right?
Yes. The role at home is to help, support, practice, get kids ready for school, but it's not the full responsibility for being responsible for actually teaching when a student isn't learning. And I want to say another thing, because I have a lot of things, I have a lot of sentences to say, individual ones, and and we already talked about this, but there's really one reason, only one, where someone doesn't learn how to read. And it's because they weren't taught. So
that's a very basic, straight answer.
A very blunt sentence. And I mean, obviously there are some children and adults with some very significant intellectual
challenges.
or developmental challenges, but that's maybe 3 to 5% of the population. But other than that, 100% of the reason someone doesn't learn to read is because they weren't taught. So when we see adults, the 62,000 adults in our community, they can all learn to read. There's nothing fundamentally stopping that from happening. I told Jose before we started that I tutored someone who graduated from a local high school, unable to read, who I tutored, and he could not read one single word. And I taught him to read. We met at the library on Thursdays at 4:00. There are 52 Thursdays in a year. We did not meet all 52 Thursdays because there are holidays and you get the flu and things happen. The car gets a flat tire, but I probably tutored him 40 Thursdays a year. So that's 40 hours. And I got him to read at a 5th or 6th grade level within 5 years. So he was then able to get a full-time job and have the benefits and security he needed in order to support his family. But other than that, so the fact that I taught him to read is, he could have learned to read when he was 7. There was nothing making him not be able to read. He just wasn't taught. And
when we think of
heartbreaking. Mm-hmm.
It is very heartbreaking. And when we think of that story, and we think of the parents and the caregivers, so, there's a lot of folks who are perhaps grandparents that maybe, and I don't want to make assumptions, but technology is not easy for everybody. I mean, even, my partner in the other room struggles with technology, and they're not I wouldn't say that they're elderly, but they're definitely not of a certain age. I think that's also a challenge today too, right? So when we talk about these resources and tools and these people are trying to, and I don't want to make this sound like this is life or death, but it is kind of like impending on someone's future success of how they go to, like, think of how you changed that individual's life at 24 years old, having gone through so much of your life and now becoming an adult and being a parent themselves, to determining, like, I need to make a change because I wasn't given the tools and the resources at school to learn to read, at home from the people taking care of me, whoever they might have been. How does that transform? And so I say that out loud, not necessarily just as a question, because there's so many answers to the question, but just to define and highlight the importance of where the role of the parent and the caregiver comes into play. Because you mentioned that kid could have learned to read at 7 years old, even if they were behind, that it shouldn't have taken for them to get to 24. If we think about this, what is it that you want parents and caregivers to know about the science of reading? That is, whether it's 1 or 3 takeaways that you think is critical for them to understand of how they should start.
The science of reading, this vast body of knowledge. So there's a science of medicine, right? But but
don't be intimidated by the word.
No, don't be intimidated. But the cardiologist doesn't know what the ENT knows. Like, so people who go into medicine learn one area that's for their specialty. They don't all know everything. So I have an ophthalmologist that doesn't know about my gallbladder, right? So,
yes.
But there's enough information in this huge body of knowledge called the science of reading for parents to benefit enough from. So things like doing read alouds. Oh my gosh, like doing a read aloud with your child. There's a better way. Here's my favorite book ever. It was my childhood book. I didn't have a lot of books growing up, but I had Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. But if you're reading to a child, one fun thing you can do with them that's easy is to make it kind of a game where I'm going to read the page to you and I want you to picture it in your mind, and then we'll look at the picture together, right? Because kids' books, even more so than this old one, the pictures and illustrations are so gorgeous that
they're vibrant, pop.
I'm just going to pay attention on why those flowers are wilting and Dad smokes a pipe. What's that about? Or Grandma has a table like that, and not hear the vocabulary, not hear the nuances of the story, not hear the disappointment, the heartbreak going on in these parents after losing their baby donkey son. So by doing a read aloud, which is in children's books, have some of the highest proportion of rich vocabulary than even the newspaper or testimony in a trial from an expert witness. So I can just do an example for everybody and say, the lion came bounding over. He sniffed the rock 100 times. He walked around it and went away, confused, perplexed, puzzled, bewildered. Did you hear those words?
Perplexed, confused, puzzled, bewildered. Not words that any 5-year-old is going to even connect can't even pronounce it. Let's not even get into the phonics piece. Yeah.
Like in my house, talking while I make dinner, I'm probably not going to use the terms perplexed, puzzled, bewildered on an everyday basis. So this is why these read alouds are delicious. I saw that little donkey as clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy, he muttered. Like the word muttered. So now, did you picture what that looks like in your head? To my child, I would say, or you could say to your child, and then you show the picture and you talk about it. So what did it mean that he muttered? Like, I'm going to mutter to myself if you don't wash your hands before dinner. Like, oh, he never washes his hands. What am I going to do with this kid? Right? So you get to talk about the vocabulary. You get to play with it. You can be the lion tonight, walking around, sniffing the table and walking around it 100 times, and acting perplexed. So those kind of insights are something scientists figured out, that kids tend to learn more vocabulary and comprehend a story better if there's a little delay in seeing the picture. But you see teachers and librarians, they don't know. So they hold the book up and kids miss the whole gist because they're looking.
There's a story behind the story that's being told with the intention to get the kid to engage in the words, but connect the words to the picture so they can understand and communicate.
Absolutely.
What exactly is this word trying to say, and what is the connection to the picture?
Yeah.
And this is something that I think is important to break down so that it probably helps parents, and you probably know this, Maria, more so, is the modalities of learning in a child develop early on and learn differently. We're audio and visual learners first above all things, if we have those connectivities, right? Those senses. When you do that behavior, you showed me the picture and we talked about muttered and that you did it with your voice, right? That changed immediately.
Yeah.
And how
you grab the attention and you make it, you're being engaging. So another thing I would implore, please don't let your babies go off to school without knowing all their letters and sounds. It's a simple job, just the basic sounds of all the 26 letters. There are enough ways for you to learn to do that and make sure, but because I can't tell you how many times kids even go through a whole year of kindergarten and first grade and still don't know those letters and sounds. Such a basic, important piece. So, get those bathtub foam blocks, get the refrigerator magnets in the car. Don't play a movie for them to watch. Talk to your children in the car. What sound does mommy, monkey, and money start with? What letter makes that sound? Yes, M. Maria, most beautiful letter ever. Maria Murray. I love the letter M. But anyway, it's so easy to do that, but what a great gift for your child to just enter school ready for that. That's a great gift you can give them. Again, a lot of oral language. My son buckled in the car seat. He was my victim. He had no choice but to play with me. He loved my attention. And I would say, say mailbox. Mailbox. Now say mailbox, but don't say mail. Box. So, starting to understand that the stream of words that come out of our mouths can be broken down into syllables and into sounds. A fancy word for that, the individual sounds are phonemes, but nobody needs to know that. That's for scientists to worry about. But if your child can be aware that there's 3 sounds in the word s, n, that is so powerful when they go to learn to read and spell. Because
by the time they hit second grade, probably, right?
First grade. They're doing this in kindergarten. Kids in kindergarten should have all their letters and sounds and be able to decode in a little 3-letter word. And so can you imagine a teacher has 28 students, 29 students, and some come in knowing all their letters, some come in knowing none. And so I'm really thinking, so you can say, hey, Jose, in the car. Yesterday when I got to work, I realized on the way to work, I lost my sock. What did I lose? Your sock. So then even being able to blend those sounds together, right? Because what are they going to do?
Phonetics pieces of it.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to be little sweet learner babies and looking at the word sock in a book someday and go, sock, because you taught them that, those sounds.
And they'll remember it too.
And then they'll be able to be like, sock, because a lot of the problem for kids is finally blending those sounds together. If you're concerned that you've been trying to teach the letters and sounds and they have a really hard time remembering them, like you taught it yesterday or an hour ago and it's gone again, you should reach out to a pediatrician and go to our Compass website and bring the page to the pediatrician. And the pediatrician should refer you to early intervention services, which are free. And the sooner you do it, the better, because no surprise, there's always a long waiting list. You're not going to but they'll come to your home and do quick assessments and literally play with your child and intervene and make sure they can do that. Because if you wait until kindergarten or first grade, that's a lot of lost time.
When we talk about the biggest things that you want people to know, I know we talked about the Compass as our resource that's going to be great for parents, and we'll make sure we link that on there. Is there any, I know we have a minute or 2 left here, but is there anything that you want parents to know or take away from today's episode? And not so much focusing on we know the science of reading doesn't sound like the most sexy or elaborate name, but when we talk about don't apologize for it. This was what I said. It is what it is. It's essential for understanding, right? I'm sure we'll have deeper conversation when it comes to the blocks. But what would you say is having someone to walk away from the 30 minutes of our conversation with this is that you want them to walk away with? Whether it's about you or the Compass or something around the science of reading.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would love people to know that, and it's, the Reading League exists. The Reading League's great. It's doing great work nationally. We want to help Syracuse as well. Go to our sources, okay? That's the pitch. But really what I want you to know is talk to your children a lot, no matter what age they are. Get off your own phones when you're near your children. Even my husband and I are on our phones when we're together at night. And we're doing the same thing. We complain about parents when they're in restaurants, right? Because how on earth do you, that language, that rich conversation builds the brain in a way that no app, no child type thing you can pull up on there can do. And time goes by quickly, and every hour that they're given a device to entertain them is a critical hour loss. Oh, and I have to mention too, and I'll be mad if I don't, but there also is, we produced a television show during COVID for 3 years. We have 60 episodes. It's called the Reading League's Reading Buddies television show, and it's free on YouTube Kids, PBS Kids, and WCNY during their program. So you can watch an episode. They're 26 minutes long. And we cover all of these things that I've talked about. So there's kids from Syracuse that are the stars in the third year of production. But like, there's an episode where kids learn how to unconfuse B and D. Kids are notorious for having trouble messing those up. Or there's episodes teaching the letters, the sounds, blending them together, rich vocabulary, like I read in that book. So
a lot of engaging content for parents, and they eat it up basically.
Yeah. And it's really entertaining, and kids don't know they're learning, which is hilarious. So I love it. But it's called the Reading League's Reading Buddies, and it's for families and caregivers. So I just said, don't go on your devices, but you can go on them for that one.
Just that one.
Just that one.
Well, we'll be sure to link all of those in the show notes as well for people to connect with. But
thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. This was so wonderful. So many golden nuggets there for people to take away. And I so appreciate the time that you've given us, but also for like empowering parents and caregivers to understand that it's not just them that are responsible for this. You have to really ask the questions and talk to the schools and making sure the school's doing their part. And you as the caregiver play a role in ensuring that you're talking with your kids and ensuring that they're communicating with you. So important.
You're your teacher's first, you're your kid's first teacher, right? And you play an important part.
Well, I appreciate you, the time you spent with us and everything you're doing in your work. If this left anyone with any words of inspiration, or if you want to share this with someone, please sure to link it to them, share it however you can, because if we don't do it together, we can't change the world. So
it takes a league.
It takes a lead. Look at that. I love it. All right. Well, thanks so much for it, Maria, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.